The moment Simone stepped through the mahogany doors of the Westbrook mansion, she knew she had made a mistake coming here. The chandelier above cast bright light on every face in the room, and each one turned to stare at her with barely concealed contempt. She wore her only decent dress, a simple navy blue outfit she had bought from a thrift store, and carried a purse with a broken zipper that she held closed with her hand. But nothing could have prepared her for what she saw next. Trevor stood by the marble fireplace, his arm draped around a woman in a red designer dress that probably cost more than Simone's monthly rent. Candace, his assistant, his mistress. The woman he had been sleeping with for the past 2 years while Simone worked herself to exhaustion trying to keep their household afloat. Oh my God, Candace's voice rang out across the room loud enough for everyone to hear. Is that her? Is that the wife? Simone's cheeks burned. Every eye in the room locked onto her. Trevor's mother, Patricia, sat on the velvet sofa with her lips pursed in disgust. His brother, his cousins, his aunts and uncles, all of them watching her like she was something they had scraped off their expensive shoes. I can't believe she actually showed up, Patricia said, not even bothering to lower her voice. Helena must have invited her out of pity. Trevor smirked, pulling Candace closer. Simone, what are you doing here? This is a family matter. I am family, Simone said quietly, hating how her voice shook. Aunt Helena invited me. The lawyer sent me a letter. Aunt Helena was your aunt? Candace laughed, a shrill sound that made Simone wince. Baby, I thought you said she was just some woman who used to live in your neighborhood. She was my father's sister, Simone said, lifting her chin. She had loved Aunt Helena. The older woman had been kind to her during the divorce proceedings, one of the few people who had not turned their back on her when Trevor started spreading lies about their marriage. Well, she's dead now, Patricia said coldly. And I don't see why you need to be here for the will reading. You and Trevor are getting divorced. You're not part of this family anymore. Simone felt tears prick her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She had cried enough over these people. The lawyer said I needed to be here. Probably to give you some table scraps, Trevor's brother Neil said from his seat by the window. Maybe she left you her old dishes or something. The room erupted in laughter. Simone stood there, frozen, as these people who had once pretended to welcome her into their family now mocked her openly. She thought about turning around and leaving, walking right back out that door and never looking back. But something kept her feet planted on the Persian rug. Aunt Helena had asked her to come. The letter had been specific. And Aunt Helena had never been cruel to her, not once. I'm staying, Simone said. Suit yourself, Trevor said, shrugging. Just don't embarrass yourself when you realize you're getting nothing. Aunt Helena always liked me best. She told me so at every family gathering. Candace giggled and kissed his cheek. We're going to do so much with the money, baby. That beach house you wanted, the new car. Don't forget the ring, Patricia added. A proper ring for your proper wife. Not like that cheap thing you gave to her. Simone looked down at her bare left hand. She had returned her wedding ring to Trevor 3 months ago when she signed the divorce papers. It had been a small diamond, nothing fancy, but she had loved it because she thought it meant something. She had been so stupid. The heavy oak door to the study opened, and a man in a gray suit stepped out. He was older, maybe 60, with silver hair and sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Good afternoon, everyone, he said. I'm Gerald Morrison, Mrs. Helena Westbrook's attorney. Thank you all for coming. If you would please take your seats, we can begin the reading of the will. Trevor squeezed Candace's hand and led her to the front row of chairs that had been arranged in the study. Patricia hurried to sit beside them. The rest of the family found their seats quickly, all of them eager to hear how Helena's fortune would be divided. Simone remained standing near the back, unsure where to sit. Mrs. Simone Clark, the lawyer said, looking directly at her. Please come sit here in the front. He gestured to a single chair that had been placed directly facing his desk, separate from all the others. Trevor's head whipped around. Why does she get a special seat? Please, Mr. Clark, let's proceed with dignity, Gerald said calmly. Mrs. Simone Clark, if you would. Simone walked past all the staring faces, past Trevor and Candace, past Patricia's hateful glare, and sat in the chair. Her heart hammered in her chest. Something felt strange about all of this, but she could not figure out what. Gerald opened a leather folder and pulled out several documents. Let us begin, he said. The last will and testament of Helena Marie Westbrook, signed and witnessed on March 15th of this year, just 2 weeks before her passing. The room fell silent. Simone could hear her own breathing, could feel the weight of everyone's attention, their greed and anticipation hanging thick in the air. I, Helena Marie Westbrook, being of sound mind and body, do hereby declare this to be my last will and testament. Gerald Reed. I have watched my family carefully over the years. I've seen their true characters, their true hearts. And I have made my decisions accordingly. Trevor leaned forward in his seat. Candace's eyes gleamed. Patricia smiled. Aunt Simone sat very still, wondering what on earth Aunt Helena had seen. Simone's mind drifted as Gerald organized his papers, falling back to the moment her life had started to crumble. It had been a Tuesday morning, nothing special about it. She had been making breakfast before her shift at the diner, tired from working the closing shift the night before at the grocery store. Trevor had already been at the table, scrolling through his phone, barely acknowledging her presence. That was how it had been for months. He had become a stranger living in their small apartment. She remembered when things had been different. When she had first met Trevor at community college, he had been sweet and ambitious. He had big dreams but no money to achieve them. His family had cut him off, claiming he needed to learn responsibility. Simone had fallen for his charm, his promises that they would build a life together. I'm going to business school, he had told her on their third date. I'm going to make something of myself. We're going to have everything, Simone. I promise you. She had believed him. God, she had believed him so completely. When he got accepted to a prestigious business program, Simone had been thrilled. The tuition was expensive, but she had been willing to do anything to help him achieve his dreams. She dropped out of her own classes and picked up 2 more jobs. She worked at the diner from 6 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon. Then she went to the grocery store from 3 until 11 at night. On weekends she cleaned houses. Trevor studied. He went to class. He networked. He built relationships with important people. And Simone paid for all of it. She paid the rent. She paid for his books. She paid for his meals and his clothes for interviews. She paid for everything while living on scraps herself, wearing the same 5 outfits, eating whatever was cheapest, never buying anything for herself. It's temporary, Trevor would say when she looked exhausted. Once I graduate and get a good job, everything will change. I'll take care of you then. You'll never have to work like this again. 3 years. 3 years of grinding herself down to nothing while Trevor flourished. He graduated top of his class. Companies competed to hire him. He chose a position at a major firm with a starting salary that made Simone cry with relief. Finally she could rest. Finally they could start their life together. Except Trevor did not want that life anymore. He started working late. He bought expensive suits and joined an exclusive gym. He made new friends, important people, people who did not know about Simone's sacrifices. When she suggested she might go back to school now that they could afford it, he told her they needed to save money. When she asked to meet his co-workers, he said it was not appropriate. His family, who had ignored him during his poor years, suddenly welcomed him back. Patricia threw dinner parties. Neil invited him to golf. They acted like Trevor had achieved everything on his own, through his own merit and determination. No one mentioned Simone's 3 jobs. No one acknowledged what she had given up. And then, 6 months ago, Simone had come home early from the diner because she was sick. She had walked into their apartment and heard sounds coming from their bedroom. Laughter. Music. The sound of her life ending. She had opened the bedroom door and seen them. Trevor and Candace, tangled in sheets that Simone had bought with her diner tips, in a bed that Simone had worked double shifts to afford. Trevor had not even looked ashamed. This isn't what it looks like, he had said, which was such a ridiculous lie that Simone had almost laughed. How long, she had asked. Does it matter? Trevor had climbed out of bed, casual, like this was a minor inconvenience. Look, Simone, we're not the same people we were in college. I've grown. I've changed. You're still, you. I worked 3 jobs for you, Simone had whispered. And I'm grateful, Trevor had said like that meant anything. But that was business. This is my life now. Candace understands my world. She fits in with my colleagues. She makes me look good. Candace had smiled from the bed, not even bothering to cover herself. It's nothing personal, she had said. Trevor needs someone on his level. Simone had moved out that day. She had taken her clothes, her few personal items, and left. She found a tiny studio apartment in a rough neighborhood, the only thing she could afford. Trevor filed for divorce a week later, claiming irreconcilable differences. His lawyer was expensive. Hers was overworked and underpaid. Trevor argued that since Simone had not contributed financially during the years he was building his career, she was not entitled to anything he had earned. Never mind that her 3 jobs had made it possible for him to have a career at all. The judge was sympathetic but limited. Simone got a small settlement, barely enough to cover 3 months of rent. Trevor kept everything else. The car she had paid for. The furniture she had bought. The life she had built. And through it all, his family had sided with him. Patricia had actually called Simone to tell her she was being unreasonable. Trevor needs to think about his future, she had said. You should be happy for him. Only Aunt Helena had been different. Helena had called Simone the day after Trevor filed for divorce. I heard what happened, she had said. I want you to know that I see you, Simone. I see what you did for that boy. I see who you are. They had talked for hours. Helena had told Simone about her own past, about a husband who had underestimated her, about building her own empire after he left. You're stronger than you know, Helena had said. And one day you'll see that this was not an ending. It was a beginning. Simone had not believed her then. But Helena had kept calling, kept checking in, kept reminding Simone that she was valuable. And now Helena was gone, dead from a sudden heart attack at 72. But she had not forgotten Simone. Gerald's voice pulled Simone back to the present. Let's begin with the specific bequests, he was saying, and Simone forced herself to focus on what was happening now, not what had happened before. Gerald adjusted his glasses and cleared his throat. The room held its breath, every person leaning forward in their seat. Simone could feel the anticipation rolling off them in waves, thick and suffocating. These people had come here expecting to walk away rich, and they could barely contain themselves. To my niece, Rebecca Patterson, Gerald read, I leave the sum of $50,000 and my collection of first edition books. A woman in the third row gasped and clapped her hands together. Thank you, Aunt Helena, she said, as if the dead woman could hear her gratitude. To my nephew, Neil Clark, Gerald continued, I leave the sum of $50,000 and my vintage car collection. Neil pumped his fist. Yes, those cars are worth a fortune. Trevor squeezed Candace's hand and whispered something in her ear. She giggled and nodded. Simone watched them, feeling nothing but a distant sense of observation, like she was watching actors in a play that had nothing to do with her. To my great-niece, Sophie Chin. Gerald paused. Wait, Sophie Chin has been removed from this document per Mrs. Westbrook's wishes. A young woman in the back of the room stood up angrily. What? Why? Gerald looked at his notes. Mrs. Westbrook left a note here. Sophie spread cruel rumors about Simone during the divorce. Character matters more than blood. Sophie's face turned red. She grabbed her purse and stormed out of the room. The heavy door slammed behind her and several people jumped at the sound. Patricia shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Trevor's smirk faltered for just a moment before returning. Gerald continued reading. To my sister-in-law, Patricia Clark, I leave the sum of $25,000. 25. Patricia sputtered. That's it? After all the years I spent caring for this family? Please, Mrs. Clark, let me finish, Gerald said patiently. He went through more names. Cousins received $10,000 here, $20,000 there. An old friend got a valuable painting. Helena's housekeeper received $100,000 and full ownership of a small house Helena had owned in the suburbs. That's more than I got. Patricia said, outraged. The housekeeper got more than me? Mrs. Patterson worked for Mrs. Westbrook for 30 years with loyalty and kindness, Gerald said simply. Mrs. Westbrook valued that. Trevor was getting impatient. Simone could see it in the way his leg bounced, the way he kept checking his watch. All these small bequests were adding up to maybe $2 or $3 million total. Everyone in the family knew Helena had been worth much, much more than that. The Westbrook family had built their fortune in real estate and manufacturing over 3 generations. Helena's late husband had expanded the empire before his death 20 years ago. Helena had continued to grow it, making smart investments and acquisitions. The last time Simone had seen an estimate in a business magazine, Helena's net worth had been listed at somewhere around $30 million. Where was all that money going? Now we come to the primary estate, Gerald said, and the room went completely silent. Even the people who had already received their bequests leaned in to hear this part. Trevor sat up straighter. Candace pressed closer to him. Patricia's eyes gleamed. The remainder of my estate, Gerald read slowly, including all properties, all business holdings, all stocks and investments, and all liquid assets I leave to. Finally, Trevor muttered. Simone Marie Clark. The silence that followed was absolute. It was the kind of silence that felt heavy, oppressive, like all the air had been sucked out of the room. Simone sat frozen in her chair, certain she had misheard. What? Patricia's voice came out as a screech. That's impossible. Neil jumped to his feet. Trevor stood up so fast his chair tipped over backward. No. No way. This is a mistake. Gerald calmly looked at his documents. There is no mistake. I have 3 copies of the will, all signed and witnessed. Mrs. Helena Westbrook left the bulk of her estate, valued at approximately $30 million, to Mrs. Simone Marie Clark. Simone could not breathe. $30 million. Properties. Businesses. All of it. To her. This is insane. Trevor shouted. He pointed at Simone. She's not even family anymore. We're getting divorced. Actually, Gerald said, pulling out another paper, according to my records, your divorce was finalized 3 days ago. Mrs. Westbrook knew this. She updated her will 2 weeks before her death, after your divorce was already in process. She specifically wanted Mrs. Clark to have everything. She can't do this. Patricia was on her feet now too. She was senile. She didn't know what she was doing. Mrs. Westbrook was examined by 3 different doctors in the week before she signed this will, Gerald said. All of them declared her to be of completely sound mind. She knew exactly what she was doing. Candace's face had gone pale. She looked at Trevor, then back at Simone, then at Trevor again. Baby, she said slowly, I thought you said. Shut up, Trevor snapped at her. There must be something we can do, Patricia said desperately. We can contest this. We can sue. Gerald shook his head. You can certainly try, Mrs. Clark, but I assure you this will is airtight. Mrs. Westbrook anticipated that there might be challenges. She was very thorough. He pulled out another envelope. She also left this letter to be read aloud after the announcement. It's addressed to the family. I don't want to hear it, Trevor said, but his voice lacked conviction. Gerald opened the envelope and began to read. To my family, he said, if you are hearing this, then you now know who I have chosen to inherit my life's work. I imagine you are angry. I imagine you feel this is unfair. Let me explain my reasoning. The room was silent again, everyone listening despite their fury. I have spent the last 5 years watching all of you carefully. I have seen how you treat those you consider beneath you. I have seen your greed, your cruelty, your casual disregard for anyone who cannot benefit you. Trevor, I watched you use Simone's love and labor to build yourself up, and then discard her when she was no longer useful to you. Patricia, I heard how you spoke to her at family gatherings, the little cutting remarks you thought I didn't notice. Neil, I saw you laugh when Trevor humiliated her. Neil looked at the floor. But Simone, Gerald continued reading, I saw something different in her. I saw strength. I saw kindness even in the face of cruelty. I saw someone who gave everything she had to support the man she loved, who asked for nothing in return. I saw someone who worked 3 jobs and never complained. I saw genuine goodness, and that is rare. Simone felt tears streaming down her face. My wealth was built through hard work and smart choices, the letter went on. But it was also built through the support of people who believed in me when I had nothing. My late husband saw my potential and helped me achieve it. I learned from him that the greatest gift we can give is opportunity. Simone never had that opportunity. She gave hers away to someone who did not deserve it. Now I am giving it to her. What she does with it is up to her, but I believe she will do remarkable things. To the rest of my family, I leave you this lesson. Character matters. Kindness matters. How you treat people when they have nothing to offer you reveals who you truly are. I hope you learn from this. With love and disappointment, Helena. Gerald folded the letter and placed it back in the envelope. No one spoke. No one moved. And then all hell broke loose. Trevor lunged toward Simone's chair. You manipulated her. You got to her somehow, turned her against her own family. 2 security guards that Simone had not even noticed stepped forward, blocking Trevor's path. He stopped short, his face red with rage. Sir, please return to your seat, one of the guards said calmly. She doesn't deserve this. Trevor shouted. I'm family. I'm blood. She was just married to me for a few years. 7 years, Simone said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. I was married to you for 7 years, Trevor. 3 years before you graduated, 4 years after. I gave you 7 years of my life. And I gave you a home. Trevor shot back. I gave you my name. I gave you my everything, Simone said, standing up now. Her legs shook, but she stayed upright. I gave you 3 jobs worth of everything. I gave up my education. I gave up my dreams. I gave up having a social life or friends or anything for myself so you could have what you wanted. That was your choice. Trevor said. Yes, Simone agreed. It was. And it was your choice to throw it all away for her. She looked at Candace, who had shrunk back in her seat. Patricia stepped forward, trying a different approach. Simone dear, she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness, I know we haven't always seen eye to eye, but we're still family. Helena would want us to stay together to share this blessing. Helena's letter was very clear about what she wanted, Simone said. But $30 million, Neil said, spreading his hands. That's too much for one person. It's excessive. It's greedy to keep it all. Says the man who just inherited $50,000 and complained it wasn't enough. Gerald interjected. Several people glared at him, but he remained impassive. Candace suddenly stood up, pulling away from Trevor. This is insane, she said. Trevor, you told me you were going to inherit millions. You said we'd be set for life. You said. Babe, just calm down, Trevor said, reaching for her. She slapped his hand away. Don't touch me. I didn't sign up for this. I didn't leave my ex-boyfriend and move across the country to be with someone who has nothing. I have my job, Trevor said defensively. I make good money. Your job. Candace laughed harshly. Your job that pays $200,000 a year? Do you know how many men in this city make that much? I could have had any of them. I chose you because you said you had family money coming. You said your rich aunt loved you. She did love me. Trevor insisted. Apparently not, Candace said. She grabbed her designer purse. We're done. Don't call me. She walked toward the door, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. As she passed Simone, she paused. I'd say I'm sorry, Candace said, but honestly I'm not. You won. Congratulations. Then she was gone. Trevor stood there, staring at the closed door, looking lost. For a brief moment, Simone almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Mr. Clark, Gerald said, perhaps you should sit down. We still have paperwork to go through. Paperwork. Trevor turned back to face him. What paperwork? Mrs. Westbrook's estate is complex. There are multiple properties, several businesses, investment portfolios. Mrs. Clark will need to sign various documents to take possession of everything. She can't just take it, Patricia said desperately. There has to be a way to challenge this. We can get lawyers. We can prove she manipulated Helena. With what evidence? Gerald asked. Mrs. Westbrook barely saw Mrs. Clark in the months before her death. They spoke on the phone occasionally, but there were no in-person visits, no suspicious transactions, no changes to Mrs. Westbrook's mental state. 3 doctors and 2 psychiatrists evaluated her. She passed every test. The will is valid. Rebecca, the niece who had gotten the books, spoke up. I think we all need to calm down. Aunt Helena made her choice. Maybe we should respect that. Easy for you to say, Neil snapped. You got what you wanted. I got $50,000 and some books, Rebecca said. Simone got $30 million. I'm not happy about it, but Aunt Helena was right about one thing. We did treat Simone badly. All of us. We looked down on her because she wasn't rich, because she worked regular jobs, because she wasn't sophisticated. And when Trevor cheated on her, we took his side without even asking what happened. Thank you, Simone said softly. Rebecca nodded but did not say anything else. This isn't over, Patricia said, pointing at Simone. We will fight this. We will take you to court. That is your right, Gerald said. But I should warn you that contesting this could take years and cost hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees. Mrs. Westbrook's estate will pay for the defense, meaning Mrs. Clark won't spend a penny of her own money. But you will. And in the end you will lose. The will is that solid. Patricia's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Neil looked at his phone, probably already calling a lawyer. The other relatives started talking among themselves, their voices rising in anger and disbelief. Trevor just stood there, looking at Simone with an expression she could not read. It was not quite anger anymore, not quite sadness. It was something else. Maybe realization. Maybe regret. Can I talk to you? He asked. Alone? No, Simone said. Please. Just 5 minutes. Mr. Clark, one of the security guards said, Mrs. Westbrook left instructions that you were not to be left alone with Mrs. Clark at any point during or after the reading. She was very specific about that. Trevor's face flushed. She thought I would hurt her? She thought you would manipulate her, Gerald said. There's a difference. I'm not going to manipulate anyone, Trevor shouted. I just want to talk. And I don't want to listen, Simone said. She looked at Gerald. What do I need to do now? Gerald smiled at her, the first genuine smile she had seen from him. We need to go to my office downtown. I have all the documents ready for your signature. Once that's done, you'll have full access to all accounts and properties. I'll also introduce you to Mrs. Westbrook's financial advisor and accountant. They're expecting us. Now. Simone asked. If you're ready. Mrs. Westbrook wanted this handled as quickly as possible. She knew there would be pushback and she wanted you to have legal control before anyone could try to freeze assets. Simone looked around the room at all these people who had treated her like garbage. Trevor, who had used her and thrown her away. Patricia, who had sneered at her clothes and her job. Neil, who had laughed at her. All of them staring at her with hatred and disbelief. She straightened her shoulders and lifted her chin. I'm ready, she said. Let's go. Gerald led Simone out of the mansion through a side door. A black car waited in the driveway, engine running. The security guards flanked them until Simone was safely inside the vehicle. They're not going to follow us, are they? Simone asked, looking back at the mansion. Not in any official capacity, Gerald said, sliding into the seat beside her. But I would recommend you stay somewhere safe tonight. Do you have family? Friends? Simone thought about her tiny studio apartment with its thin walls and broken air conditioning. She thought about how alone she had been these past months, how the divorce had left her isolated. Her friends from before had all been Trevor's friends first, and they had chosen him when things fell apart. Not really, she admitted. Gerald pulled out his phone and made a call. Janet? It's Gerald. I need you to arrange a hotel room for Mrs. Clark. Something safe and comfortable. The Peninsula, perhaps. Yes, bill it to the Westbrook estate. She's a client now. He listened for a moment. Thank you. He hung up and looked at Simone. You're staying at the Peninsula tonight. Tomorrow we'll discuss your living arrangements. Mrs. Westbrook owns several properties. You can choose where you'd like to live. This doesn't feel real, Simone said, watching the mansion disappear behind them. It's very real, Gerald said gently. Mrs. Westbrook wanted this for you. She believed in you. But why? Simone asked. I was just her nephew's wife. We only talked a few times. I don't understand why she did this. Gerald was quiet for a moment. Then he said, when I first started working with Helena about 15 years ago, she told me something I never forgot. She said that you can tell everything about a person by watching how they treat someone who can do nothing for them. She said she had spent her whole life watching people be kind to her face because she was rich, but nasty to waiters and janitors and people they thought didn't matter. I still don't understand, Simone said. She saw you at a family Christmas party 5 years ago, Gerald said. Do you remember it? Simone thought back. 5 years ago. She and Trevor had still been okay then, or at least she had thought so. They had gone to Patricia's house for Christmas. It had been a big event, lots of people, lots of expensive food and wine. I remember, Simone said. I worked a double shift that morning and went straight there. I was exhausted. Helena told me that she watched you that night, Gerald said. She saw Trevor ignore you while he networked with his cousins. She saw Patricia hand you a stack of dirty plates and tell you to help in the kitchen because you're used to that kind of work. And she saw you smile and say of course, and spend the next 2 hours washing dishes and serving food while everyone else celebrated. Simone remembered. She had not minded, not really. She had been used to working. It had felt better to be useful than to stand awkwardly in the corner while Trevor's family talked about things she did not understand. But there was a moment, Gerald continued, when the housekeeper dropped a tray of glasses. They shattered everywhere. Patricia started screaming at the poor woman, threatening to fire her on Christmas. And you stepped in. I forgot about that, Simone said quietly. You told Patricia it was an accident and that everyone makes mistakes. You helped the housekeeper clean up the glass. You made sure she was okay. Helena saw all of that. She saw your kindness. And she started paying attention to you after that. She never said anything, Simone said. She was watching, Gerald said. She saw how hard you worked. She saw Trevor taking advantage of you. She saw his family treating you like you were worthless. And when she heard about the divorce, about how Trevor cheated and then tried to claim he owed you nothing, she called me and said she wanted to change her will. This was her way of helping me, Simone said, understanding now. This was her way of giving you the opportunity she felt you deserved, Gerald corrected. Helena didn't believe in handouts. She believed in investing in people with good character. She invested in you. They drove through the city in silence for a while. Simone looked out the window at the streets she had walked for years, working her 3 jobs, barely surviving. Everything looked different now. Everything was different now. What am I supposed to do with $30 million? She asked. Whatever you want, Gerald said. But I'd suggest taking it slow. Meet with the financial advisor. Learn about the businesses Helena owned. You don't have to make any big decisions right away. They arrived at Gerald's office, a sleek building downtown. The next 3 hours were a blur of paperwork. Simone signed document after document. Bank accounts were transferred to her name. Property deeds were updated. Business holdings were reassigned. With each signature, Simone felt the weight of her new reality settling onto her shoulders. She was responsible for all of this now. Employees depended on these businesses. Tenants lived in these properties. It was overwhelming. "I don't know how to run a business," she said at one point. "That's what advisors are for," the financial consultant, a woman named Sharon, said kindly. "Mrs. Westbrook had excellent people in place. They'll help you learn." It was dark by the time they finished. Gerald's assistant had packed up Simone's few belongings from her studio apartment and brought them to the hotel. When Simone walked into her room at the Peninsula, she found her old duffel bag sitting on a bed that probably cost more than her monthly rent. The contrast was jarring. Her thrift store clothes next to silk pillows. Her worn sneakers on plush carpet. Simone sat on the edge of the bed and finally let herself cry. Not sad tears exactly. Not happy tears either. Just tears of release, of disbelief, of everything that had happened crashing down on her at once. Her phone buzzed. 14 missed calls from Trevor. 6 from Patricia. Voicemails and texts flooded her screen. "Simone, we need to talk. This is insane. You can't do this to our family. Please call me back. We can work this out." She blocked every number. Then she turned off her phone completely. For the first time in months, maybe years, Simone took a long hot bath. She ordered room service without looking at the prices. She slept in a bed that felt like a cloud. And when she woke up the next morning to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows, she realized something important. She was free. Free from Trevor. Free from his family. Free from working herself to death just to survive. She did not know what came next, but for the first time in a very long time she was excited to find out. The next morning Gerald picked Simone up from the hotel. They drove to Aunt Helena's mansion, but this time it felt different. This time, when they pulled through the gates, Simone knew she was not a guest. This was her home now. Mrs. Westbrook's housekeeper, Mrs. Patterson, still lives in the guest house, Gerald explained as they walked up the front steps. "She's agreed to stay on and help you adjust. The rest of the staff has been informed of the change." "Staff?" Simone asked. "A groundskeeper, a part-time cook, and a cleaning service that comes twice a week," Gerald said. "All of them have been with the estate for years. Helena trusted them." The front door opened before they reached it. A woman in her 50s stood there, smiling. Simone recognized her from the will reading. "Mrs. Clark," she said warmly. "Welcome home. I'm Dorothy Patterson." "Please," Simone said, "call me Simone." "Simone," Dorothy corrected herself. "Come in. I've prepared breakfast in the sunroom." Simone walked through the mansion with new eyes. The chandelier that had witnessed her humiliation yesterday now hung above her head as the owner of the house. The marble floors, the expensive artwork, the grand staircase, all of it was hers. It still did not feel real. The sunroom was beautiful, with huge windows overlooking a garden. A table was set with fresh fruit, pastries, and coffee. Simone sat down and Dorothy poured her a cup. "Mrs. Westbrook talked about you often," Dorothy said. "She hoped you would accept this gift in the spirit it was intended." "I'm still trying to understand it all," Simone admitted. "It's a lot," Dorothy agreed. "But you'll adjust. And I'm here to help however I can." Gerald joined them and pulled out a folder. "Let's talk about the businesses," he said. Helena owned 3 main companies. First, there's Westbrook Properties, a real estate development and management company. They own commercial buildings and apartment complexes throughout the city. "How many buildings?" Simone asked. 17, Gerald said. "All of them profitable. The CEO is a man named Frank Morrison. He's been with the company for 20 years and knows it inside and out. He's expecting to meet with you this week." "Okay," Simone said, trying to imagine herself meeting with a CEO. Second, there's Westbrook Manufacturing. They make industrial parts for automotive and aerospace companies. It's a smaller operation but very specialized. The manager there is excellent. "And the third?" Simone asked. "Westbrook Investments," Gerald said. "This is mostly Helena's personal stock portfolio and various investments. Sharon, the financial advisor you met yesterday, handles this one. Between all 3 companies and the investments, you're generating about $4 million a year in passive income." Simone choked on her coffee. $4 million a year? "More or less," Gerald said. "That's after all expenses, salaries, and taxes. The companies essentially run themselves. Your job, if you choose to be active in them, would be to make strategic decisions and approve major changes." What if I make the wrong decision? Simone asked. Then you learn from it, Gerald said simply. But Helena didn't leave this to you expecting you to fail. She left it to you believing you would succeed. Over the next week, Simone met with each of the key people running Helena's businesses. Frank Morrison from Westbrook Properties was a tall man in his 50s who treated her with polite professionalism. He walked her through the company's operations, showed her financial reports, and explained their current projects. Mrs. Westbrook was a hands-off owner, he explained. She trusted me to run the day-to-day operations, but she always reviewed the quarterly reports and approved any acquisition over $1 million. I assume you'll want to do the same? Yes, Simone said because it seemed like the right answer. Excellent. I'll send you our next quarterly report next week. If you have any questions, my door is always open. The manufacturing company was based in an industrial area outside the city. The manager there, a woman named Rita Gonzalez, gave Simone a tour of the factory floor. Simone watched workers operating complex machinery, creating parts that would end up in cars and planes. We employ about 200 people, Rita said proudly. Good jobs with good benefits. Mrs. Westbrook always took care of her workers. I want to continue that, Simone said. Rita smiled. I'm glad to hear it. Sharon, the financial advisor, was perhaps the most helpful. She spent hours explaining investment strategies, stock portfolios, and long-term financial planning. The key, Sharon said, is not to touch the principal. Live off the interest and growth. With $4 million a year, you can live very comfortably while the wealth continues to grow. I've never had more than a few $1,000s at once, Simone admitted. This is all so foreign to me. You'll learn, Sharon said confidently. Mrs. Westbrook started with nothing too. She learned and so will you. At night, Simone would sit in the mansion's library, surrounded by books about business and finance. She read until her eyes hurt, absorbing everything she could. She was determined not to waste this opportunity. One evening, Dorothy found her there at midnight, still reading. You need to rest, Dorothy said gently. I need to learn, Simone countered. Mrs. Westbrook used to say that rest is part of learning, Dorothy said. Your brain needs time to process information. Come on, I made chamomile tea. They sat in the kitchen drinking tea and talking. Dorothy told stories about Helena, about her wit and her kindness and her fierce intelligence. She would be proud of you, Dorothy said. The way you're throwing yourself into this. She knew you would. Did she ever talk to you about why she chose me? Simone asked. Dorothy was quiet for a moment. She said she saw herself in you, she finally said. She told me that when she was young, she married a man who used her. He took her family's money and her ideas and built his business with them. Then he tried to push her out. She fought back, took control, and turned it into something even bigger. She said you reminded her of who she used to be before she learned to fight. But I didn't fight, Simone said. I just left. Sometimes leaving is the fight, Dorothy said. You refused to let him destroy you. You survived. That takes strength. Simone thought about that as she went to bed that night. She thought about all the times she had felt weak during her marriage, all the times she had questioned herself. Maybe she had been stronger than she knew. Her phone, which she had finally turned back on, buzzed with a new message. She almost ignored it, but something made her look. It was from Trevor. We need to talk. Please. Simone deleted it and went to sleep. 3 months had passed since the will reading, and Simone had transformed. She still lived in Helena's mansion, but now she had made it her own. She had redecorated one of the rooms into an office, where she spent hours every day learning about her businesses. She attended board meetings. She reviewed financial reports. She asked questions until she understood every aspect of how things worked. The people who ran Helena's companies had been skeptical at first, wondering if this newcomer would mess everything up. But Simone proved herself through careful attention and smart questions. I don't understand this expense, she had said at one meeting, pointing to a line item in the budget. Frank Morrison had looked at it and frowned. That's for a consultant we hired last year. He was supposed to help us with a new project. But the project didn't happen, Simone said. Why are we still paying him? Frank had blinked, looked at the numbers again and realized she was right. They had been paying the consultant for 6 months after the project had been canceled, an oversight that had cost them tens of thousands of dollars. Good catch, Frank had said, and his respect for her had grown. Moments like that happened again and again. Simone brought a fresh perspective, asking questions that longtime employees had stopped asking. She found inefficiencies and waste. She suggested improvements. More than that, she cared. She visited the manufacturing plant regularly, learning the names of workers on the floor. She walked through the apartment buildings talking to tenants about their concerns. She made herself accessible in a way Helena never had, not because Helena had been unkind, but because Helena had been busy with other things. "You're good at this," Sharon said during one of their weekly meetings. "Better than you give yourself credit for." "I'm just trying not to mess it up," Simone said. "You're doing more than that," Sharon said. "You're improving things." The properties division reported their best quarter in 5 years. The manufacturing plant has a wait list of people wanting to work there because word got out about the new owner caring about her employees. "You're building something here." Simone felt pride at that, a warm glow she had not felt in years. But not everything was smooth. Trevor had tried to see her 7 times. He showed up at the mansion gates twice, at her office once, at a restaurant where she was having lunch with Sharon another time. Each time, security escorted him away. His calls and messages had become increasingly desperate. "Simone, please. I made a mistake. Can we talk? I'm sorry for everything. You deserved better. I need your help. My business is failing." That last one had made her pause. She had checked, using resources she now had access to. Trevor's business was indeed failing. He had made some bad investments, lost some major clients. Without the expected inheritance to fall back on, he was drowning in debt. Part of her, the part that had loved him for 7 years, felt bad about that. But a bigger part remembered how he had looked at her when Candace was in their bed. How he had called her contributions business rather than love. How his family had mocked her for being poor. She blocked his latest number and moved on. Patricia had tried a different approach. She sent a letter, formal and cold, explaining that she was contesting the will. Her lawyers were building a case based on undue influence. She claimed Simone had manipulated Helena in her final months. Gerald had laughed when Simone showed him the letter. "Let her try," he said. "She'll spend $100,000 in legal fees and get nowhere. We have 3 doctors' evaluations, video of Helena signing the will with full cognitive function, and testimony from a dozen people about Helena's reasons. They have nothing but anger and greed." Still it stung. Simone had never wanted to hurt these people. She had just wanted to live her life. One afternoon, Simone sat in her office looking at another angry message from Neil. He accused her of stealing his inheritance, of being a gold digger, of manipulating a sick old woman. Dorothy knocked on the door. "You okay?" she asked. "They hate me," Simone said. "They hate that you have what they wanted," Dorothy corrected. "That's different. You didn't steal anything. Helena chose you freely." "I know," Simone said. "But it still feels bad." "That's because you're a good person," Dorothy said. "Good people feel bad when others are hurt, even when those others hurt them first. But don't let their feelings make you question your worth. You deserve this." Simone took a deep breath and nodded. She was learning that lesson slowly. She deserved good things. She deserved opportunity. She deserved to be valued. She had started taking better care of herself too. She had joined a gym and hired a personal trainer. Not because she was trying to look a certain way, but because for the first time in years she had the energy to invest in herself. She bought clothes that fit properly and made her feel confident. She got regular haircuts. She took breaks when she needed them. She was becoming the person she had always had the potential to be, the person who had been buried under exhaustion and desperation. One evening, she was reading in the library when Dorothy brought her the phone. "There's someone asking to see you," Dorothy said. "A woman named Candace." Simone looked up in surprise. "Trevor's Candace?" "She says she needs to talk to you," Dorothy said. "She's at the gate." Simone's first instinct was to say no. But curiosity got the better of her. "Send her in," she said. "But stay close just in case." 10 minutes later, Candace walked into the library. She looked different from the last time Simone had seen her. Less polished. Her designer clothes were gone, replaced with more modest outfits. Her confident smirk had been replaced with uncertainty. "Thank you for seeing me," Candace said. "What do you want?" Simone asked, not getting up from her chair. "I want to apologize," Candace said. "For everything. For the affair. For how I treated you. For what I said at the will reading." "Okay," Simone said. "You apologized. You can go now." "Please," Candace said. "Can I explain?" Against her better judgment, Simone gestured to a chair. Candace sat. "I was using Trevor," Candace said. "I knew he was married. I knew what I was doing was wrong. But he told me he was going to be rich, that his aunt was worth millions, and I saw an opportunity. I'm not proud of it." "Why are you telling me this?" Simone asked. Because it all fell apart, Candace said. Trevor's broke. His family won't help him. I moved on to someone else, but that relationship ended too. And I've been thinking about what Mrs. Westbrook's letter said. About character. About how we treat people. And I realized I've spent my whole life using people, looking for the next opportunity, never thinking about who I was hurting. I want to be better than that. That's great, Simone said. But it has nothing to do with me. I know, Candace said. I'm not asking for anything. I just needed you to know that I'm sorry. Truly sorry. What we did to you was cruel. Simone looked at her for a long moment. She saw genuine remorse in Candace's eyes. But she also saw the calculation, the way Candace was probably hoping this apology would somehow benefit her. I don't forgive you, Simone said finally. Maybe someday I will, but not today. What you and Trevor did changed my life. It hurt me in ways I'm still working through. An apology doesn't erase that. Candace nodded. I understand. But I hope you do become a better person, Simone continued. Not for me but for you. Because living the way you were living, using people, it's empty. I know because I lived with someone who was doing the same thing. Trevor used me and now he has nothing because people who use others always end up alone. You're not alone anymore, Candace observed. No, Simone agreed. I'm not. But that's not because I used anyone. It's because someone saw value in me that I couldn't see in myself. Candace stood. Thank you for hearing me out. Dorothy will show you out, Simone said. After Candace left, Simone sat in the quiet library for a long time. She did not feel triumphant. She just felt tired. Tired of thinking about Trevor and his family and all the people who had hurt her. She wanted to move forward, not backward. And that was exactly what she was going to do. 6 months after the will reading, Simone had fully embraced her new life. Westbrook Properties had acquired 2 new buildings, deals that Simone had helped negotiate. The manufacturing plant had expanded into a new product line that was already showing promise. Her investment portfolio had grown by 12%. She was not just managing Helena's empire anymore. She was building her own. On a Tuesday morning, Simone arrived at her office building downtown. She had recently bought a small office space for herself, somewhere separate from the mansion where she could focus on business. It was modest compared to what she could afford, but she liked it. Floor-to-ceiling windows, a simple desk, everything she needed. Her assistant, a young woman named Rachel, greeted her with coffee and the day's schedule. You have a meeting with Frank at 10, lunch with Sharon at noon, and the quarterly review at 3, Rachel said. Perfect, Simone said, taking the coffee gratefully. Also, Rachel hesitated, there's someone in the lobby asking to see you. He doesn't have an appointment. Who? Simone asked. Trevor Clark. Simone's jaw tightened. Tell him I'm not available. I did, Rachel said. He said he'd wait. He's been down there for 2 hours. Simone considered having security remove him. But she knew Trevor. He would just come back. He had been getting more desperate lately, showing up at places he thought she might be, leaving messages that bordered on aggressive. Fine, she said. Send him up. But stay close to the door. 5 minutes later, Trevor walked into her office. Simone barely recognized him. He had lost weight and not in a healthy way. His expensive suit hung loose on his frame. His hair, usually perfectly styled, looked unkempt. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. Simone, he said, and his voice cracked. Thank you for seeing me. You have 5 minutes, Simone said, not offering him a seat. My business is failing, Trevor said, getting straight to the point. I made some bad investments. I lost my biggest clients. I'm about to lose everything. I'm sorry to hear that, Simone said, and she was surprised to find she meant it. She did not want to see him fail. She just did not want to be involved in his life anymore. I need help, Trevor said. Alone maybe. Just enough to get back on my feet. I'll pay you back, I swear. No, Simone said. Please, Trevor stepped closer. I know I don't deserve it. I know I treated you horribly. But I'm desperate. My apartment is being foreclosed on. I can't afford my car payments. I have nothing. That's not my problem, Simone said. How can you say that? Trevor's voice rose. After everything we were to each other? 7 years of marriage means nothing? You made it mean nothing, Simone said calmly. You threw away those 7 years when you got into bed with Candace. You threw them away when you told me I wasn't good enough for your new life. You threw them away when you fought to make sure I got nothing in the divorce. I was stupid, Trevor said. I made a mistake. Haven't you ever made a mistake? Yes, Simone said. I made the mistake of loving you. of sacrificing everything for you, of believing you when you said you'd take care of me once you succeeded. But I learned from that mistake, Trevor. I learned that I can't depend on anyone but myself. I learned that I'm stronger than I knew. And I learned that some people will take everything you give them and still ask for more. I'm not asking you to marry me again, Trevor said. I'm just asking for help. One time. That's all. You had my help, Simone said. For 3 years while you were in school, you had all my help. Every penny I earned, every hour I worked, all of it went to helping you. And the moment you didn't need me anymore, you got rid of me. Now you need me again and you think I should just forgive and forget? That I should give you money because we used to be married? You have $30 million. Trevor shouted. What's a few $100,000 to you? It would change my life. It's not about the money, Simone said. It's about the principle. You treated me like I was worthless. You told me I was beneath you. Your family laughed at me and called me names. And now that you need something, you think I should help you? What? Because we were married? That marriage ended when you cheated. It ended when you chose Candace over me. It ended when you told the judge I didn't deserve anything from you. Trevor's face was red. So this is revenge? You're just going to let me suffer because you're bitter? No, Simone said. This is me taking care of myself. This is me saying no to someone who hurt me. This is me refusing to let you use me again. Call it revenge if you want, but I call it self-respect. You're heartless, Trevor spat. Helena made a mistake giving you all that money. You don't know how to be generous. You don't know how to help people. Simone smiled, and it was not a kind smile. Actually, I've been very generous. Last month, I donated $500,000 to a charity that helps women leaving abusive marriages. I'm funding scholarships for people who have to work multiple jobs to afford school. I'm helping people all the time, Trevor. Just not you. Trevor stared at her, breathing hard. For a moment she thought he might try to grab her or throw something. But Rachel was right outside the door, and Trevor must have realized he had no power here. You're going to regret this, he said. When I get back on my feet, when I rebuild, you're going to regret treating me this way. Maybe, Simone said. But I doubt it. Now please leave. Security will escort you out if necessary. Trevor looked at her for a long moment. She saw hate in his eyes, but also something else. Defeat. He knew she meant it. She was not going to help him. I loved you, he said quietly. I know I screwed it up, but I did love you. No, you didn't, Simone said. You loved what I could do for you. There's a difference. Trevor turned and walked out. Rachel quickly stepped aside to let him pass. Simone watched him go, this man who had once been her whole world, now just a stranger who had hurt her. She sat down at her desk and took a deep breath. Her hands were shaking, but not from fear. From relief. She had stood up to him. She had said no. She had protected herself. Rachel peeked her head in. Are you okay? Yeah, Simone said, and she meant it. I'm okay. That took guts, Rachel said. My ex used to manipulate me all the time. I wish I had been that strong. It's not about strength, Simone said. It's about knowing your worth. Once you know what you deserve, it's easier to say no to people who want to give you less. Rachel smiled. You're like a fortune cookie, but better. Simone laughed, and the tension in her chest released. She had done the hard thing. She had faced Trevor and stood her ground. And now she could truly move forward. Her phone buzzed. It was Gerald. I heard Trevor showed up at your office, he said. Do you need me to file a restraining order? How did you already know? Simone asked. I have sources, Gerald said mysteriously. So, restraining order? Not yet, Simone said. I think he got the message. But if he comes back, then yes. Good, Gerald said. Also, I have news. Patricia dropped her lawsuit. They realized they couldn't win and didn't want to waste more money. Really? Simone felt another wave of relief. Really? It's over. The will is settled. Everything is legally yours with no challenges remaining. Congratulations. Thank you, Simone said. For everything. I couldn't have done this without you. You could have, Gerald said. But I'm glad I got to help. Helena would be proud of you, Simone. Very proud. After they hung up, Simone looked out her window at the city below. 6 months ago, she had been working 2 jobs just to afford a studio apartment. Now she owned buildings in this city. She employed hundreds of people. She had more money than she had ever dreamed of. But more than that, she had something more valuable. She had herself back. The part of her that Trevor and his family had tried to crush, the part that knew she was worth something, that part was alive and strong again. And nobody was ever going to take it from her again. 1 year after the will reading, Simone stood in the ballroom of a hotel she now owned. It was decorated for a special event, the first annual Helena Westbrook Foundation Gala. She had established the foundation 6 months ago, and tonight was its official launch. The mission was simple: help women who were leaving difficult marriages or situations. Provide them with resources, job training, legal support, and financial assistance to start over. Everything Simone wished she had when she left Trevor. "You look beautiful," Dorothy said, adjusting Simone's dress. It was a deep emerald green, elegant but not flashy. Simone had learned that she did not need to prove anything with expensive clothes. She wore what she liked, what made her feel good. "I'm nervous," Simone admitted. "What? This is your event. You're the one in charge." "That's why I'm nervous," Simone said, laughing. "A year ago I was serving coffee. Now I'm hosting a charity gala. It's surreal." "You've earned it," Dorothy said firmly. "Stop doubting yourself." The ballroom was filling up with guests. Business leaders, philanthropists, reporters. Sharon arrived with her husband. Frank and Rita came with their spouses. Even Rebecca, the niece who had defended Simone at the will reading, had sent a donation and a note of support. Simone moved through the crowd, shaking hands and thanking people for coming. She gave a speech about the foundation's mission, about helping women find their strength and independence. The room erupted in applause. "That was perfect," Rachel whispered when Simone returned to their table. "I practiced about 100 times," Simone admitted. The evening went smoothly. They raised over $2 million in donations. Women who had been helped by the foundation in its first months shared their stories, talking about how the support had changed their lives. Simone listened to each one, feeling grateful that she could make a difference. Near the end of the night, a man approached her table. He was about her age, handsome in a quiet way with kind eyes. "Mrs. Clark," he said. "I'm Dr. Julian Hayes. I run a clinic that provides mental health services for people leaving difficult situations. I read about your foundation in the paper, and I'd love to discuss a potential partnership." "That sounds wonderful," Simone said, shaking his hand. They talked for 20 minutes about his clinic and her foundation and how they could work together. Julian was passionate about his work, and Simone found herself enjoying the conversation. "Would you like to discuss this further over coffee?" Julian asked. "I have some proposals I think you'd find interesting." "Sure," Simone said. "Have your office call mine and we'll set something up." After he left, Rachel raised her eyebrows. "He was cute." "It's a business meeting," Simone said. "Sure it is," Rachel said with a knowing smile. Simone rolled her eyes, but she could not help smiling too. The next week, she met Julian at a coffee shop. They talked about the partnership, about connecting his mental health services with her foundation's resources. But they also talked about other things. Their lives, their interests, their dreams. "How did you end up running a clinic?" Simone asked. "My sister left an abusive marriage 10 years ago," Julian said. "She struggled to find help, struggled to rebuild her life. I was finishing medical school at the time, and I decided to specialize in trauma and recovery. I wanted to help people like her." "That's beautiful," Simone said. "What about you?" Julian asked. "What made you start the foundation?" Simone told him her story. Not all of it, but enough. About working 3 jobs, about Trevor's betrayal, about feeling worthless and used. About Helena giving her a second chance. "And now I want to give that chance to other women," she finished. "I want them to know they're not alone, that they can rebuild, that they're worth more than they've been told." Julian looked at her with something like admiration. "That's remarkable," he said. "You took your pain and turned it into something meaningful." "I had help," Simone said. "But thank you." They met again the next week and the week after that. Sometimes they talked about work, sometimes they just talked. Julian made her laugh. He listened when she spoke. He treated her with respect and kindness. "I like spending time with you," he said one afternoon as they walked through a park. "I like spending time with you too," Simone admitted. "Would you like to have dinner sometime?" "Not a business meeting. A real date." Simone hesitated. Part of her was scared. She had been hurt so badly by Trevor. What if she made the same mistake again? But a bigger part of her knew that Julian was different. He did not want her money. He had his own successful practice. He did not want her to take care of him or sacrifice herself. He just wanted to know her. "I'd like that," she said. Their relationship developed slowly. Julian never rushed her, never pressured her. He was patient with her fears and insecurities. He celebrated her successes and supported her through challenges. 3 months into dating, Simone introduced him to Dorothy. He's good for you, Dorothy said after Julian left. I can see the difference in you. You're happier. I am, Simone said, realizing it was true. She was happy. Not because of Julian exactly, but because of everything. Her work, her foundation, her independence, and yes, having someone who valued her for who she was. Meanwhile, she heard through Gerald that Trevor had declared bankruptcy. His business had failed completely. He had moved back in with Patricia, who was apparently not happy about it. Simone felt bad about that, but not guilty. She had not caused Trevor's failure. His own bad decisions had done that. She had simply refused to save him from the consequences. Candace had reached out once more, asking if Simone had any job openings at her companies. Simone had politely declined. She wished Candace well, but she was not going to help the woman who had slept with her husband. Patricia sent one final letter, asking if Simone would reconsider sharing Helena's wealth with the family. Simone replied with a firm no and a suggestion that they focus on building their own futures rather than fixating on hers. After that, the messages stopped. Trevor's family finally accepted that Simone was not going to give them anything. One evening, Simone sat in Helena's library with Julian. They were reading together, a comfortable silence between them. Julian's hand rested on hers and Simone felt content. Can I ask you something? Julian said. Of course. Do you ever regret it? The divorce, leaving Trevor? Never, Simone said without hesitation. Sometimes I regret the time I wasted with him, but I don't regret leaving. He taught me what I don't want in a partner. And that led me to figure out what I do want. What do you want? Julian asked. Partnership, Simone said. Equality. Respect. Someone who values me for who I am, not what I can do for them. Someone who builds with me, not off of me. That sounds reasonable, Julian said with a smile. Do I have that? Simone asked. I hope so, Julian said. Because that's what I want too. They kissed and Simone felt something she had not felt in years. Hope. Real, genuine hope for the future. Her phone buzzed with a notification. The foundation had just received another major donation. A wealthy entrepreneur had been impressed by their work and wanted to fund an expansion into 3 more cities. Good news? Julian asked. Great news, Simone said, showing him the message. You're changing lives, Julian said. Do you know that? I'm trying, Simone said. No, Julian said. You're succeeding. Simone looked around Helena's library at the books and the comfortable furniture and the life she had built. She thought about the woman she had been a year ago, broken and exhausted and lost. And she thought about the woman she was now, strong and successful and happy. Helena had given her an opportunity. But Simone had made it into something more. She had taken her pain and built something beautiful from it. And she was just getting started. The 2-year anniversary of Helena's death arrived on a crisp autumn day. Simone stood at Helena's grave, holding a bouquet of white roses. The cemetery was quiet, peaceful. She came here sometimes to talk to the woman who had changed her life. I hope I'm making you proud, Simone said to the headstone. The foundation helped 200 women last year. We're expanding to 5 more cities. And Westbrook Properties just acquired 3 more buildings. We're growing. The wind rustled through the trees, and Simone liked to imagine it was Helena responding. I'm happy, Simone continued. Really happy. I'm dating someone wonderful. His name is Julian. He's a doctor. He reminds me a little of you actually. He sees the best in people. He believes in making the world better. I think you would have liked him. She placed the roses on the grave and sat on a nearby bench. She had come alone today wanting some quiet time to reflect. 2 years ago, she had been humiliated in Helena's mansion, mocked by Trevor and his family. She had sat in that chair feeling worthless and alone, convinced she had nothing to offer the world. How wrong she had been. The foundation gala was in 2 weeks. This year's event was going to be even bigger, with over 500 guests expected. Simone had been interviewed by 3 major magazines about her work. She had been invited to speak at conferences about women's empowerment and business leadership. She was becoming someone important not because of her money but because of what she was doing with it. Her phone rang. It was Rachel. Hey boss, Rachel said. Just wanted to remind you about the interview with business today at 3. I remember, Simone said. I'll be there. Also, Rachel hesitated. Trevor called the office again. Simone sighed. What did he want? He wanted to know if you were hiring. He said he's been applying everywhere but nobody will take him after the bankruptcy. What did you tell him? I told him we don't have any positions available. Good, Simone said. If he calls again, just don't answer. He needs to move on. Understood. After hanging up, Simone thought about Trevor. She had heard he was working as a sales associate at an electronics store now, a massive drop from his previous position. Patricia had kicked him out after 6 months, unable to stand having him in her house. He was living in a small apartment, driving an old car, barely making ends meet. It was karma, some people said. Poetic justice. Simone did not see it that way. She just saw it as the natural consequence of his choices. He had used people, treated them poorly, and eventually ended up alone. She had been kind, worked hard, and found herself surrounded by support. The universe had a way of balancing things out. That evening, Simone attended a charity dinner for another organization. The event was held at an expensive hotel, full of the city's elite. She wore a simple black dress and minimal jewelry, confident in her own skin now. As she walked through the ballroom, she noticed a familiar face across the room. Trevor was there, wearing a server's uniform, carrying a tray of drinks. Their eyes met for a brief moment. Trevor's face flushed with shame. He quickly looked away and hurried toward the kitchen. Julian, who was with Simone, noticed the exchange. "Was that your ex-husband?" "Yeah," Simone said. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," Simone said, and she meant it. She did not feel triumphant seeing Trevor like that. She did not feel angry or hurt. She felt nothing but a mild sadness that things had turned out this way for him. But she also knew it was not her responsibility to fix it. Throughout the dinner, she occasionally saw Trevor serving tables. He never approached her, never tried to talk to her. He just did his job and stayed out of her way. Near the end of the night, as Simone was getting ready to leave, she saw Trevor standing alone near the service entrance. He looked exhausted, defeated. For a moment, their eyes met again. Simone walked over to him. Julian stayed back, giving her space. "Hello, Trevor," she said. "Simone," he said quietly. "I didn't know you'd be here." "I'm on the board of this charity," she said. "We do work with the foundation." Trevor nodded. An awkward silence stretched between them. "I'm not going to apologize again," he finally said. "You've made it clear you don't want to hear it." "I appreciate that," Simone said. "For what it's worth," Trevor said, "you look good. Happy. I'm glad things worked out for you." "Thank you," Simone said. "And I'm sorry," Trevor said, despite what he had just said about not apologizing. "Not because I want something from you. Not because I'm trying to manipulate you. Just because it's true. I'm sorry for how I treated you. You deserved better." Simone looked at him for a long moment. She saw genuine regret in his eyes. He had lost everything, and maybe that had finally taught him something about how to treat people. "I hope you figure things out," Simone said. "I hope you learn from all of this and become a better person." "Are you ever going to forgive me?" Trevor asked. "Maybe," Simone said. "Someday. But not because you need me to. Because I want to let go of the last of the hurt you caused. Forgiveness is for me, not for you." Trevor nodded. "That's fair." "Take care of yourself, Trevor," Simone said. "You too," Trevor said. She walked away, back to Julian, back to her life. She did not look back at Trevor. There was nothing left to say, nothing left to do. That chapter of her life was closed. Julian took her hand as they left the hotel. "That must have been hard," he said. "Not really," Simone said. "I think I finally feel free of him. He's just a person I used to know, someone from my past. He doesn't have power over me anymore." "I love that about you," Julian said. "Your strength." "I didn't always have it," Simone admitted. "I had to learn it." "Well, you learned well," Julian said, kissing her forehead. They drove back to the mansion together. As they pulled through the gates, Simone looked at the house that had once intimidated her. It was home now. Her home. She thought about everything that had happened in the past 2 years. The humiliation at the will reading. The shock of inheriting $30 million. Learning to run businesses. Starting the foundation. Meeting Julian. Building a life she could be proud of. It had not been easy. There had been moments of doubt, moments of fear. But she had pushed through them all. Helena had given her an opportunity, yes. But Simone had done the work. She had earned her success. She had proven that she was more than the poor girl who worked 3 jobs. She was a businesswoman, a philanthropist, a leader. She was someone who mattered. That night, as she lay in bed, Simone felt profound gratitude. Gratitude for Helena's generosity, for Dorothy's support, for Gerald's guidance, for Julian's love. But most of all, gratitude for herself. For not giving up when things were hard. For believing she was worth more than Trevor told her she was. for taking a chance and building something beautiful. The best revenge, she realized, was not watching Trevor struggle. It was not about him at all. The best revenge was this: living a happy, fulfilling life. Being the person she was meant to be. Finding love and success and purpose. She had not just survived the betrayal. She had thrived beyond it. And that was better than any revenge could ever be. Tomorrow she would wake up and continue building her empire. She would help more women through the foundation. She would grow her businesses. She would spend time with Julian and Dorothy and the people who valued her. She would live her life fully, boldly, joyfully. Because she had learned the most important lesson of all: she did not need anyone else to complete her. She was whole on her own. Everything else was just a bonus. Helena had seen that potential in her 2 years ago. And now, finally, Simone saw it too. She closed her eyes and fell asleep, a smile on her face, ready for whatever came next.